How's it going, Lunchmates? And welcome back to part 2 of the Faz-eteria Room with Daniel and Alec. How are y'all doing? Because we have been going through those lore books and we're ready to continue where we left off last time. So just a brief recap. Last time we came to the conclusion that in the late 70s and early 80s, Charlie Emily dies. This leads to the crying child seeing it and him fearing for his life every time he is in Fredbear's family diner. In 1983, the crying child is accidentally chomped by the Fredbear animatronic and goes into a comatose state. This is FNAF 4, where you see him running around and fearing for his life in his bedroom, even though most of it is not real. He dies at a certain point, but during this time, his father, Michaelafton, discovers that the soul of Charlie has gone into the security puppet, and this will lead into the 1985 killings, where we find ourselves today.
I got scared just listening to that, man. Whew!
It's spooky stuff, let me tell you.
Oh, man, so sit down in front of Pirates Cove and get yourself a pizza, because Daniel's about to begin this story.
All right.
You know, if Dan Aykroyd is listening, we do great storytellings, right? You know?
yeah, you know, turn me for like stuck on thing.
Anyway. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So by this point, the crying child is dead, presumably, and he's trying to figure out how to bring him back to life. So he goes and he kidnaps 5 children at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. This is the first Freddy's location that we see from FNAF 1. Now, we know for a fact that Chica is the first animatronic to be stuffed.
Yeah, in the custom night games, there are certain Chica scenes.
Anime Chica.
Yeah, anime Chica scene, and we'll put a picture of that like right now, as you can see. In these cutscenes, Chica explains kind of like this story that you have to kind of like really like read between the lines, but what she's telling or signifying is that she was the first one to be stuffed in the suits by Michaelafton.
Yeah, so her name is Susie, and you can see through the Fruity Maze game that she was lured by Michaelafton in the Golden Bonnie suit because her dog had been recently hit by a car, and he promised her that he can bring it back to life if she followed him into the back room. And unfortunately, we know that this led to her demise. Freddy is another child named Gabriel. There's not a lot known about him, but you can tell by a handprint over one of Freddy's eyes that Gabriel struggled while being stuffed into the suit. Maybe signifying that he was a strong child, courageous perhaps, as he didn't give in immediately. And maybe that's why Freddy is one of the strongest animatronics in FNAF 1 in terms of his aggression and later nights. Bonnie is literally the least remarkable one. We know almost nothing about the child who was put in him, whose name is Jeremy. We assume that he was one of the mid-children to be stuffed. Interestingly, part of his name was adapted by Michaelafton into Jeremy Fitzgerald later in the timeline. I don't want you guys to focus too much on that, but it's just a fun fact that... Yeah. Foxy is the last one, and he functions very differently than the other animatronics. He's a lot more active, he runs around a lot, leading me to believe that the soul in him, whose name is Fritz, was a very active child, possibly hyperactive, running around, and... you know, maybe he was scooped up and thrown in mid-run. Who knows?
I could just imagine that just bolting down and then...
Now, just very quickly before I turn it over to you, Alec, I want to bring attention to something very interesting. A long time, we've looked at the Midnight Motorist minigame from Pizzeria Simulator, and fans have wondered exactly who the yellow man is. We see right now on screen, there's a yellow kind of lanky character. We've never seen a character like this before. Purple is usually related to the Afton family. We've seen that used to represent William and his other son, Michael. but we've never seen Yellow before. A lot of people thought it could have been William, but Alec and I think that we've stumbled on possibly a better explanation. So there's one more child as part of the 5 that gets kidnapped, and that is Cassidy, the vengeful spirit that we think inhabits Golden Freddy. And I do know that in the first episode I said that Crying Child could have inhabited Golden Freddy, and we'll get into that a bit more. But just know that for now, Cassidy 100% is in Golden Freddy's suit. So we see that the yellow guy comes home in this minigame, and his child is not in their room. If you go behind the house, you see that there's footprints of an animatronic by the back window, and the window is smashed. You also see, if you go off-road at a certain point in Midnight Motorist, this will be on screen as well, that there's a sort of lump in a clearing in the woods, very similar to something that would have been buried. Now, I'm thinking, and Alec and I talked a bit about this, that Cassidy was abducted from her house, his or her, from their house by Golden Bonnie, William Afton. It was taken and murdered in the forest and never actually stuffed into the suit. This is conjecture, obviously. I don't actually know if that's true, but it would make sense why Golden Freddy is not a physical animatronic walking around. It's more of a husk, because the body never ended up in the suit, but the soul did. Now, I'm not sure about this, but Alec, we're pretty sure that the mustard man, yellow man, was Cassidy's father, right?
Yeah, what our hypothesis is that minigame, Midnight Motorist, is Cassidy's father being a drunk, kind of abusive, irresponsible father, and he's barreling down the highway, and you're basically controlling him, and making his way home. And when you get off of the highway in that little secret nook in Midnight Motorist, where you go to the house and play the rest of the minigame as Yellow Man, he stumbles upon this location called Junior's.
At Junior's, we're not exactly sure if this is a bar of some kind that he frequents, or if this is meant to be another pizzeria. It really isn't too important. What's important is that the guy at the door rejects him. Obviously, there's been problems with this orange-yellow man in the past. He has aggression issues, and obviously that shined through in Cassidy. She has very vengeful tendencies, as we see when she's becomes a spirit. And her aggressive father is probably the cause of that. She's clearly the angriest. And we actually find out that again, the anime Chica cutscenes from Pizzeria Simulator, she talks a little bit about a scene. In it, she talks about coming to one of her suitors' houses. And we know that these scenes are meant to be the way the various children were abducted. In Chica's school days, anime Chica, she says for one of the suitors that if he doesn't come to her house, she'll enter through the window or set the house on fire, waiting for him to come out. Now, the entering through the window is significant, given that the back window in Midnight Motorist is broken. So I'm saying this is a clear indicator that William Afton broke in through the window and stole Cassidy from her room.
That cutscene of Chica's school days is extremely significant, and which is why, again, we believe that the yellow mustard man is not William Afton, but Cassidy's father, the girl who later possesses Golden Freddy's suit. So yeah.
Around this time as well, William. Oh, Alec, you're gonna have to take this part. He hides some stuff in the back room, right? Oh, yeah. So with 1985, I just wanted to touch up again on how William Afton ended up successfully completing his plan of luring the 5 children. So we all know, as the FNAF community, he lured them in using the Golden Bonnie suit, as taken from Fredbear's Family Diner. How that suit ended up there, what me and Daniel have come up with was that when Fredbear's Family Diner closed due to the whole horrific incident of Charlie's death, the golden suits
Fredbear and Bonnie, got retired and moved to this specific Freddy Fazbear's location, where we see in FNAF 1, right? And they get locked up in storage in the back room, and everybody's just like, "Hey, forget about the back room. Nothing's there. We're not gonna. We're not gonna
don't look back there. No one looks in the back room.
Yeah, no one's looking in the back room." And I feel like this was all part of William's plan, as far as I think like one of the phone call lines is that the animatronics aren't aware of the back room. Like there's no record in their programming. They have no recollection that there is a specific room, like where those suits are, right? So that William Afton uses to his advantage, and thus having those suits moved from the Fredbear's location to this 1985 location, he uses that suit to then lure the 5 kids to be stuffed into Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy, and also use the suit as to go and retrieve Cassidy, as we see in the Midnight Motorist game. So yeah, there we have it. 1985 is the next big date as far as the FNAF timeline.
Although we never see a lot of this stuff directly, 1985 is the year where we know a lot. We know a lot of names. We know specific actions that were taken. And really, it's probably the most information we have about a specific year in the whole timeline.
1985 is kind of one of those dates where you just have to know, in that the missing child, the first significant missing child's incident happened in 1985. That's the thing you just got to know. So yeah.
So go ahead. Go ahead, my lad.
My guy, I feel so bad. I think I've blocked you like 3 times, and it's only been the 2nd episode of this mini-series.
Ooh, just like you blocked those animatronics at the door. I mean, look at the footage in the background. Look at it.
And this is the part.
Get in there.
And this is the part where Bonnie exactly ruins me right here. So
if it lines up, that'd be crazy.
I think I accidentally went the whole way with having to not lower the door because Bonnie was like right in my room. So anyway. but yeah. To touch on next, so we've gone through 1985, the whole missing child incident. So at this time, the next thing you have to know in the FNAF timeline is, as William Afton is doing, stuffing the kids in the animatronic suits because he knows the souls have remnant in them and is trying to harness them, which is the whole purpose of him, besides being a psychotic killer, has surprisingly a plan. So,
Yeah, and I think we can really think about the first 5 missing children here as sort of a test run. After he saw Charlie come to life as the puppet, he tried to do a very rough version of that and was successful. So he's going to try to refine it even further going on.
Yeah. And so this prompts him to create what's known as the next significant game in the timeline, Sister Location, and thus creating the Sister Location animatronics. As Daniel mentioned, I believe in the last episode, with the variants of the Freddy Fazbear crew, Funtime Foxy, and other creations such as Ballora, Circus Baby, and
Funtime Freddy with Bon Bon.
Yep, Funtime Freddy with Bon Bon. Yeah, this is the next significant part of the timeline where he creates the Sister Location animatronics. And Sister Location, what you have to know is that it's kind of been up and running, and Sister Location is a next important date for one of William Afton's other children.
Yes. So in an effort to learn more about Remnant, William goes on a spree of kidnapping children. We don't know the specific number, but we know that the very first one is his own daughter, Elizabeth. So he creates the Sister Location gang, and Baby has a device in her chest. When a child is near her and there's no one else around, she can scoop up the child in her chest. Now, William had warned Elizabeth countless times not to go near her, But inevitably at a party one day, she goes up, all the other children are out of the room, and she gets scooped up and murdered. And she goes on to possess Baby.
The reason that Circus Baby opened in William Afton's eyes is that he created these animatronics as their purpose to kidnap kids and harness their powers, correct?
Yeah, the Circus Baby and her gang, the Funtime animatronics, their exclusive purpose is capturing children. Each of them, we see in some blueprints, each of them has a specific purpose. So Foxy is Funtime's Foxy is a bit of a visual sensor. He's very visually based. Fnaflore is a very sound-based animatronic that uses children's voices to pinpoint locations. Funtime Freddy, we see he has a compartment in his chest to capture live children. And obviously, Baby is there to capture souls with her chest compartment there. I don't think hers is as big to capture live children. It's more of a, the killing thing. It's one of the bad ones. Yeah. So they're only out for one day, I think, before they have to be put underground because of the death of Elizabeth. And this is where Circus Babies kind of stays. They end up renting out these animatronics for parties, but they never get a formal location after this point. And also around this time, interestingly, there are other sister locations besides Circus Babies. There's also Chica's Party World, where we think Funtime Chica is during that time, because we see that Funtime Chica is an actual animatronic in a pizzeria simulator. So that's just an interesting point there, and it shows a little bit that there are other things happening in the FNAF universe besides these core events.
Yeah, and I think in the source coding of the game, if you were to open up the legit code, there is a location called Chica's Party World, but hidden in the source code of the game, it's there. So that's probably as much evidence as we can find on where Funtime Chica is.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So underground is where the next few events occur, but for right now, y'all are just gonna have to wait and find out what happens next. So in this episode, we covered 1985 and the specific events around it. We then went on to talk how the sister location animatronics were created specifically to help William capture children so he can learn more about Remnant and maybe, just maybe, reincarnate the crying child.
Yep, you're going to have to tune in next time as Alec and Daniel once again go through the FNAF timeline.
Oh yeah, see you guys next time.